Where is the uproar? Why are people not out in the streets? I'll tell you why. People are struggling and they want to keep people in that state. So they only have to worry about how are they going to fend for themselves in this environment. What are people doing right now? They continue to borrow. It's the mechanism here, becoming slaves to the system, and people who becoming dependent on the system. So the more people that can get dependent on the system, the less of an outcry there will eventually be. People in this day and age, I think, not people of our generation, but they want to be taken care of from cradle to grave. They don't want to work. They want to check, and they don't care what it is. They put them in a shotgun shack, and they're happy with that kind of an existence. Me, I don't want to exist like that. I want to prosper. I want everyone to prosper. I want people to see through the nonsense here. But there's so many reasons why we're not seeing an uproar here. Again, people being made dependent on the system. They're being made to keep their mouth shut. As long as they keep getting those checks, they're all for it. They don't care what happens. It's not about a society anymore. It's about an individual, unfortunately. I always tell people, love each other, care about each other, be charitable. If people adopted that, we'd all be a lot better off. But it seems like it's going in the opposite direction, other than the people that follow our work. And again, we are a vast minority, unfortunately. There's not enough of us to do anything because how the people are being lulled into this sense of dependency on the system, dependency on what they believe is the government. And I believe the government is the central banks that are running the entire show. They can control the financial system. They control the world. Everything else is just a theater connected to it. So, that's my take on it. And unfortunately, I would like to have hope on things. And the only hope I have is there's going to be some of us that understand the system, realize what's happening, and knowledge is power. So, taking the opposite side of the trade, at least from a financial standpoint, getting into hard assets, physical gold and silver, my favorite asset of all time. I have it all over my desk. I literally do. I look at it all day long. I play with it. I touch it, but, it's obviously a lot bigger than that, because the society itself is collapsing along with the economy and by design here, leading up to a climax. And that climax is going to take people by surprise here. And it's going to be biblical in many, many ways. I tell people, look for an article I wrote years ago, Global Debt in the Human Bubble. I mean, I saw that from years ago, what was happening, and it's continuing to manifest itself. So I urge people to just let your fingers do the walking. Look it up. The article's out there still, believe it or not. Global Debt in the Human Bubble. That's where we are, and that's how it's going to end. People ask, hey, Greg, how it's going to end? Read the article. That's how it's going to end. Oh, absolutely. It's the key. It is the absolute key to the market is the debt market. The debt market eclipses the stock market. In fact, everything prices off of debt market action. I don't people understand how important the debt market is. I've said that the stock market itself, because of the way it derives value from action in the debt market, is a derivative itself. So the stock market in aggregate is a derivative as to what is occurring in the debt market. It should make sense to people. If you have, for example, a 10-year yield at X, the market should be reflective of that. And it's not just the stock market. You should see real estate. And as a matter of fact, all assets are tied to what is happening in the debt market at any given time. The 10-year yield is the most important. It is the benchmark. Mortgages are based off of that. And people need to understand, look, people are just going back to what you were discussing. They're distracted all the time. And the mainstream financial channels, all they do is tell people to focus on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is just 30 companies. Forget the broader market. They don't want you looking at the S&P 500. They want you focused on the Dow.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
And they never explain to people, nor would they ever explain to people how the market is dependent as to what is going on in the debt market. It's a major distraction, and it's all propaganda. Nothing makes sense at all. I mean, people that follow our work, they laugh. They watch the mainstream, how they're distracting you, how they're propagandizing everyone here, and they laugh about it. I'm certain that's what's going on. Look, I've been telling people that there's a natural selection process going on for many, many years. And some people, like the people that follow your channel and the people that follow mine, they get it. They understand what's happening. They're not buying into the nonsense. And the nonsense, I believe, as things get worse, and they're going to, our economy is in free fall globally. We're in free fall here. But meanwhile, they're trying to convince people of the polar opposite of that. Durable goods orders falling off of a cliff, retail sales falling off of a cliff, real wages literally in the negative. But they're telling everyone, everything is great. And then we got the biggest lie of them all, in my opinion, is how the Federal Reserve, just by raising the federal funds rate here, and which they've been doing for many months, okay, we already know that, is going to somehow stop or slow down inflation. All it's done as increase inflation, which I said would happen. And this whole thing with the Inflation Reduction Act, what a joke. They're trying to convince people that by spending hundreds of billions of dollars, they're going to somehow reduce inflation. You got to be kidding me. So they're selling people a whole set of lies here. And I don't know who's buying it. I don't think anyone that follows our work is buying any of it at all. Exactly. Also, a big part of this bill, this act here, is they're funneling tens of billions of dollars to corporations here. And there's no one saying anything about it. No, look, this is part of the mechanism here. It's very simple. They must do these things. There has to be another one coming down the pike, more reasons to pull cash into the now. That's the system. People don't realize what's really going on because they're not being told via the mainstream media of how the system must function. We must continually and relentlessly inflate the debt. Otherwise, the whole system implodes. I've told people, I don't know for how many years, you want to end the Fed or any central bank, prevent them from issuing $1 single of debt, just one. Well, if we could prevent the Fed from issuing $1, just $1, I'm not making that number up, one, we end the Fed. The Fed ends. The debt-based economic model implodes in a nanosecond. So, and believe me, and you know this, our policymakers are well aware of how the system works. So they must create this program, that program, the other program, along with the crisis mechanism to keep inflating the debt. They can't allow people to know that's how the system functions. It's the debt-based economic model, which is the biggest curse in the history of the world. And it has to relentlessly work that way. Imagine for a nanosecond if a world leader, any one of them, would say, listen, I want to be level. I want to level with all of you and explain to you that's the system we have. And it demands that debt be constantly fueled. We must create reasons to borrow hundreds of billions of dollars into existence, like expand a war, support for wars, COVID, another disease process, Inflation Reduction Act, funneling cash to corporations here, whatever it might be. And it's all deliberate because the goal of central banks is very simple. Their power resides in one thing, their ability to inflate. If they don't inflate, the system dies. And our politicians, who are all puppets of central banks, in my view, here, all of them, from the top down, going back as far back as you want to go, understand the system. And they will continually call on the Fed to inflate, to give us this false sense of whatever we have. And despite the fact that we are in a collapsing global economy, they're going to try to tell us or convince us that the polar opposite is actually happening. It's what they always do. It's how they operate. I'm talking about the mainstream channels.
Small ebook, big impact, the wealth tree. The only 4 ways that will make you financially free forever. Download it here for free.